Welcome back. Singapore's universities have excelled in the latest QS World Rankings by subject, with nearly one-third of their courses being ranked in the top 10. Subjects such as NUS History of the Arts and NTU's Material Science are placed in the top 2 of their respective fields. Now, 6 Singapore universities placed 114 entries across 49 subjects in the rankings. With 30% of their courses in the top 10 of their respective fields, it is the highest rate among all other countries and territories. More than half of the courses also saw an improvement in rankings from last year. National University of Singapore's History of Arts course was ranked second globally. Civil and Structural Engineering, as well as Social Policy and Administration, came in third best in the world. Nursing jumped from 20th to 8th place. In all, NUS had 46 courses in the rankings. For Nanyang Technological University, its Material Science course was ranked number 2 in the world. Library and Information Management was third, while Mechanical Engineering moved up 8 places to 4th. NTU is also the university with the most courses in the world rankings, with 48. The remaining entries come from Singapore Management University, Singapore University of Technology and Design, LaSalle College of the Arts, and Kaplan, Singapore. Now, for a closer look, we now speak with Ben Sowter, Senior Vice President at QS Quacquarelli Symonds. And Mr. Sowter, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, the QS subject ranking finds Singapore universities outperforming universities around the world. Tell us about the key areas of excellence.
Well, thank you very much. This has become a huge study, 21,000 program entries around the world, academic offerings, if you will. And Singapore continues to shine in all of our exercises. It's perfectly located geographically. It's a hub for international academic partnership. It's increasingly focused on skills development. And I think all of that capability comes through in the continued performance of its universities, and in particular, NUS and NTU.
Yeah, and let's focus on NTU and NUS, as you mentioned. What are the strengths of these two universities that are among the best ranked?
Well, one strength is their comprehensiveness. You've just covered that. 46 subjects for NUS and 48 for NTU. Over the course of the last 15 years, NTU has really forged itself into a globally competitive, comprehensive university to rival many others in the world. NTU still leads into its traditional strengths. It tends to edge out NUS in engineering disciplines and things like material science, whereas NUS has got great strength in arts and humanities, in areas like medicine and life sciences as well.
Are there other areas that they have not done too well?
It all depends on your frame of reference, of course. They've got extremely high standards, and with some subjects in the top 5, other subjects being in the top 150 or the top 200 may not seem like an achievement. But in comparison to other universities around the world, they really do have strength in breadth across the academic spectrum that is impressive to see, and I think promotes interdisciplinarity as well.
Having said all of that, Mr. Sowter, what does the results mean for Singapore's position among global education cities?
Well, I think Singapore has a continued vital part to play. As I mentioned before, it's geographically brilliantly located. There's a lot of English-speaking capability. A lot of employers choose to headquarter their regional operations in Singapore. And combining that with Singapore's pioneering focus on skills, which I know you're going to be talking about in your next item, I think that's really attracting continued engagement from employers and continuing to service the students particularly well, at the same time as driving forward research capability. Quite often, some of the strongest research universities don't necessarily pick up on the skills agenda quite as strongly as is happening in Singapore. And I think that's one dimension of these institutions' competitive edge.
To what extent do you think the ranking results will affect students' choice of the universities, especially for foreign students? How far do such published rankings influence enrollment?
Well, we find that there is no reduction in demand for comparative information on university selection, especially for international students. It's a major decision and a major investment for them and their families, and they want information to give them a sense of what the right decision is to take. I think what's happening right now is particularly interesting for places like Singapore, because it's getting a little bit more difficult to get places in the UK or Australia or Canada. And as a result, increasingly international students are turning to data sources like ours to explore potential alternatives. And the big winners are going to be those locations that offer a large proportion of courses in English and a good range of subjects across the board, which is absolutely the case for Singapore. So I expect that this will influence inbound interest in Singapore programs quite significantly. And we do find over time that students are increasingly tending to look at what they want to study before they think about where they want to study it. So subject exercise is becoming increasingly popular with students over time.
And Singapore's higher education programs, they are designed to take into account global work skills needed in 5 to 10 years' time. So in this regard, how well do you think we have done?
I think Singapore is doing exceptionally well in this area, and it's a big contributor not only to the performance in the measures that we're looking at directly, but in reputational measures in particular. I think skills is going to be a key battleground for universities worldwide over the course of the next 10 to 15 years, as it gets increasingly difficult for institutions and students to find the right fit. Students are going to be looking for the places that can demonstrate the skills upside, return on investment that the institutions can give them. And Singapore's institutions and the Singapore ecosystem in general, supported by many employers that are based there, is perfectly poised to take advantage of this opportunity.
So what about the employers? How do they view the performance of the universities in the ranking study? How will it influence employers when considering, university graduates for employment?
Well, employers and their point of view, their reputation is involved in the study. And that's a dimension that is unusual in the QS ranking. Most other rankings aren't looking at employability and employer opinion directly. So I think that drives employers, if they're interested in comparative viewpoints on universities and where they should recruit from, that drives them towards the QS study to begin with. And I think that they're getting increasingly sophisticated. So beginning to look not only at an institution's overall performance and obviously the candidate's capability and competency, but also what the strength of the subject value proposition that they're looking for was. And in particular, whilst this isn't measured directly through the rankings, the sort of skills drive and skills capability of the graduates that are emerging. QS is doing quite a bit of work in that area, including releasing a World Future Skills Index earlier this year, which is our attempt to begin to get more engaged with the skills agenda and encourage universities to drive that side of the equation as successfully as they have the research side.
Mr. Sowter, thank you so much for speaking with us. Ben Sowter there from QS Quacquarelli Symonds.